Should you go to school for 3D character art? As someone who's gone twice now, I have some thoughts on the matter. I've also had a lot of people reach out to me recently asking on suggestions, so I figured I'd just create this video. In the video, I'm going to go through a bunch of things, going to go through my own personal journey as someone who's gone to school twice now. I've done some online courses as well as some mentorships and paid for it all out of my own pocket, so I have thoughts on the whole lot. So I'm going to go through that. I'm going to go sort of through the pros and cons of each method. So pros and cons of online courses, mentorships, and traditional schooling, and sort of talk to you about who I think each path is best designed for. I will also touch on price. I'll leave chapter links down below so you can sort of jump to each section that makes sense for you. That way you don't have to listen to the whole thing if you don't want to. But without further ado, let's just jump into my journey as a 3D character artist. So I first went to school for 3D art in general back in 2011. I went to the Academy of Interactive Entertainment in Melbourne, Australia, AIE for short. And I went there off the back of high school wanting to learn 3D art. I didn't really do a lot of research. I knew that this school was quite well regarded in the space at the time. And I had a friend going there. So I was like, screw it, I'm going to go as well. And honestly, that was an amazing 2 years. I went 2011, 2012, and I had a great time. I really did have a lot of fun there. Learned a lot as well, a lot of foundational things. But unfortunately, when I graduated from that school, I just didn't feel ready to enter the industry. I felt that my portfolio is quite subpar and just didn't have the skill set or the confidence to jump out and start applying for work. Part of that is due to the school and like the learning process there, not to shit on it or anything. Like I said, I had a great time. And also the industry as a whole in Australia at the time is quite small, remote work not being a thing. So like I said, AIE was a lot of fun, but as a whole, as a school, the teaching was quite broad. You just sort of learnt 3D modeling as a whole, and you didn't get to sort of specify down a particular path. Obviously, the industry, there is a lot of specialities from like weapons artists to environment artists to character artists. And I knew when I started there that I just kind of wanted to do characters. So it's kind of tough for me to do 2 full years of a lot of generalized creation, meaning that I didn't get to focus on what I wanted to do. They also didn't teach ZBrush at the time, which was crazy. So I was doing a little bit on the side learning and not really getting anywhere because they didn't teach it. Another bit of a red flag for that school at the time was a lot of teachers there, even though we got along really well, were ex-students. And that doesn't build you with confidence for the industry as a whole. You know, people going to school and then just teaching at the school they went to rather than going into the industry. And you just felt that maybe you weren't learning the most recent industry standards. So yeah, when I graduated, I just didn't feel like I had the confidence nor the ability. Like I'll leave some shots up on the screen of pieces I created whilst there. Because of that, a lot of it was confidence as well. I just left it. I went and did something completely different for the next 5 to 6 years. And I don't really regret the shift. I learned a lot in those 5 to 6 years. But after doing this completely different career shift, I realized I was start dabbling with 3D on the side again, sketching in ZBrush. And I was trying to remind myself, why did I stop doing this? I didn't really remember at the time. Too much time had passed. I'd sort of lost track and realized that I like this and I want to do this. And so I started jumping in and trying to teach myself again. It was really, really tough because 6 years is a lot of time in the tech industry, I guess. And so software had changed, workflows had changed. So I did what anyone would do is I just went online and took a couple of online courses. I went to flipnormals.com. They have an amazing resource of courses there and took a couple of beginner courses for ZBrush to reteach myself the ropes and get back into sculpting. And honestly, those courses were great. They gave me the foundational knowledge to start creating characters. But as for game characters, I just felt that I needed a little bit more one-on-one learning because that's how I learn. And I just love asking questions and I felt I needed that. So I was on YouTube and looking at other sculptors and artists and found one, Anna Carolina, and I'll leave her link below. At the time she was offering mentorships and I was like, this is exactly what I need, a one-on-one discussion where I can create a character. So I reached out to her and we did a one-on-one mentorship. I created this character here and I still kind of like it today. I feel like I learned a lot. What I actually learned the most was how receptive I was to that sort of learning environment and realizing that my skills just jumped drastically. I went from this to this in 2 months, which was crazy for me. Learned a lot about texturing. And so from that mentorship, I went on and sort of created a couple other characters. But again, there was that sort of like that confidence there. And I felt like there was a gap in my knowledge. So I started looking for schools. Again, a more traditional school. Part of this comes from the fact that I was working full time and I felt that I needed a little bit more guidance, a little bit more direction and deadlines to keep me on track. Is anyone out there working a full-time job trying to do a side hustle? It can be exhausting sometimes. So those sort of deadlines I felt would help me along. And luckily, having gone to AIE in the past and knowing what I guess concerned me there, and then having done an online course and a mentorship, I knew what to look for when looking for a school. And there are a couple out there that do it really well. Thinktank stood out to me. One, it was in Canada, which is where I am right now, so it helped a lot, especially with funding. But also I just started seeing some of the art come out of there, reaching out to students and asking for their experience with Thinktank. And it all seemed to be really positive. The best part about Thinktank is that they don't have teachers, right? They just get people that work in the industry to basically teach in their spare time, right? So their teachers are actual industry professionals, which is incredible for me. It was a huge green flag coming from AIE where it was a little bit of like the opposite. I was also able to reach out to some of the students and ask them a bit more sort of specific questions about the course structure, how the school tackled things, and whether or not I could fit it into my lifestyle working full time, knowing full well that I'd be able to give it quite a lot of time. But at the end of the day, I'm 30, I have to work a full-time job. It is what it is. And honestly, it just seemed like the perfect school. And so I jumped into studying again at 30, which was crazy, honestly. Thinktank was an incredible experience. I learned so much. It is a very well-structured school. It's not perfect by all means. And if you want to know more about it, maybe drop a comment below and I can get back to you. I learned so much, and each semester, I progressed so much. Like I learned, it was incredible. Honestly, I don't want to keep going on about it, but their structure is amazing. Number one, they actually allow you to specialize. So if you just want to do characters, you can just do characters. If you just want to do environments, you can do that as well, meaning you don't have to worry about dividing your time up with things that you're not passionate about. That was great for me. And then each semester you create a full character. So you get to go through the full workflow with each semester sort of giving you more time, meaning you can tackle bigger projects. Ironically, I sort of did mine backwards. I tackled a project where I didn't have enough time to complete it in the first semester. Then I scaled back a bit in the second semester and then gave myself a little bit more room in the third semester. We all make mistakes. And then, that last semester is a mentorship. So it's a one-on-one learning environment, which having had experience in the past, I was super excited about. And so, I went through and went on to this mentorship at the end. I worked with Tom Newbury, an incredibly talented CG artist, ironically from Australia, which is super funny for me. And we created this character that I'm super proud of even to this day. Like I feel like I learned so much. And Tom and I had a chat at the start of this saying like, this is what I wanted to learn. I wanted to focus on texturing. And I feel like I nailed it in the sense that I learned a lot from him from texturing. And this is sort of on me. What I didn't do is sort of realize that Tom worked in the CG and film space. I wanted to work in the game space. And although they're similar, there are fundamental differences that can make it tough to have conversations about, especially when he's mainly had experience in that space. So I felt like I wanted to do one more mentorship just to round out my knowledge base and learning. So I did one last one with Frankie Eaton at Animark. You may know him on YouTube. He's been creating some great content lately. And ironically, I think it was because I posted something or I reached out or I was watching a video of his and we connected before I even finished Thinktank. And then realized that, hey, like the one part of this sort of whole process that I'm not familiar with, he can help me with because he works in games. And so I did one more mentorship with him. We created this most recent character that you might have seen on my channel. Again, like anyone can see that how much I progress each time. But now finally I've landed here at the end of the whole journey, still no job in the industry, but more passion than ever to create 3D characters, which is awesome. And realizing that it's just about the art form and just loving the process, but finally feeling that I have like not only the confidence, but the skill set and knowledge to do it myself. And I don't regret doing any of it. Like obviously these things cost a lot. I don't regret going to AIE because I built friendships there and learned foundational skills and again, just had a great time. I don't regret taking any of the online courses because it all guided me in this direction. From all of this, I realized that mentorships, they're the way to go. Honestly, like if you can, they are incredible because you have the one-on-one connection with the other person. So you can ask very specific questions that honestly are just not Googleable because they're so specific. So I think if you have foundational knowledge already, mentorships are the way to go. I think you definitely need to know how to finish what you want to learn. Like if you want to do environment art, you need to know how to create a full environment from start to finish. Same with the character, start to finish, because then you're going to get the most out of it. You're going to be able to ask the questions where you specifically struggle. For example, with Frankie, when I did our mentorship, I was very specific at the start. The thing I needed help with was building a good iterative workflow and working in Unreal Engine. That's sort of where I was lacking, I guess, in my knowledge, or especially when I created characters. And so he's like, cool, let's make sure that that's the focus when we're doing this. But obviously, give guidance everywhere else. But that was the bit that, all right, let's work on that. And again, feedback. Getting feedback from someone about something specific that you've done is just, feedback is king, and learning from that. Because you could just be creating things, and if no one's, you're showing your friends and family, and they're just going, oh, that looks great. Oh, incredible work. Yeah, okay, you get a bit of an ego boost, tick, happy days. You're not learning. I love it when people tell me I've done a good job. That's awesome. I love it even more when people go, this is a good job, but you could have done this differently, or maybe you should have done this better, or do this. That's when my next piece will be even better, all right? When you get to the end of a mentorship and you're excited about creating the next character, I feel like that's, it's a success, because you're like, oh my God, I've learned so much. I'm ready to implement this from the start versus as I'm working on it. So yeah, big win for mentorships. Huge believer in those. The elephant in the room is price. And I am going to do this section here, but I don't want to spend too much time on it because everyone is in a unique position to know whether or not something is affordable. Obviously, I think the scale would go is you'd start at one end with online courses. I feel like they're pretty affordable. There's sales all the time. You could go on Skillshare where you'd pay a monthly fee. So I would say they are cheap in comparison. Moving up, mentorships. Mentorships can be quite expensive depending on who you go with. Everyone charges different rates, can be quite expensive. And then obviously traditional schools where you do graduate at the end being the most expensive. But ironically, with the more expensive options, typically you can do financing, all right, depending on where you live, but you can't for the other ones. So there's pros and cons with the cost. Luckily, what I would say is you could do something similar to me, which is if you aren't sure, just get an online course. It's such a minimal risk, right? Some of these courses are only like $20, $30. Some of these courses, $20, $30, maybe $80 for a really good one. Why not? Just do it, see how you go. If you find yourself wanting at the end, then you know that maybe this isn't for you. Or if you find yourself getting to the end of that and maybe you're not as motivated, or maybe you're finding it hard to structure it, then you know that maybe you should invest a little bit more money. But at least that one there is such a low cost. And I find it funny is like we go out shopping and we'll drop $100 on a video game, or we'll buy those new pair of shoes for a couple $100, or go on a holiday, right? We'll spend a couple grand on a holiday, not even bat an eyelid, but then we'll sit here and be like, I don't know if I should spend this money on this course. It doesn't make sense to me, right? Self-improvement is king. So try to look at it from you are improving, and this is less of an outright cost and more of an investment, right? And that's how I would look at it. Whether or not it's worth it. I definitely think maybe an online course is the best starting place because I feel like there's little to no risk. You might as well just do it and then go from there, right? Obviously, schooling is a huge risk. Just don't do the school thinking that having that diploma or the certificate at the end is what gets you the job. This is a skill-based industry. That's all that matters at the end of the day. Everyone online, no matter what, that's what they say. Portfolio is king, showing you can do the work and just doing amazing work. That's what's important. So don't just go to the school to get that certificate thinking you'll get the job afterwards. I didn't do it that way. I did it because I knew I would learn. And that's the most important thing. So pros and cons. Let's just get into it. We'll do school pros and cons. Then we're going to do online courses. Then we'll do mentorships. And then we'll just round it out. And that's the video done. Pros for me with a traditional school is going to be deadlines and structure. Especially if maybe you work or you have all these other things in your life, having those two things like structure and deadlines can be really important, keeping you motivated, keeping you going. I find those really, really important. Do your research with the school as well. Make sure you are choosing a school that is structured well. Reach out to past students just to make sure as well. That's another great thing with schools. You can reach out, all right? Find people that went to that school and just say, hey, what are your thoughts? Should I do it? I find that can help a lot. And I guess technically as a pro as well with schooling is there are financing options available for most people. So you should be able to get in if you needed to. Cons, as I just said, it can be expensive. No matter where you are, going to a traditional school, it will be expensive. As I mentioned earlier, this is a skill-based industry in terms of you need to show you can do the work. So going to school just for a certificate, that's not going to be a good option and not something that I think anyone would really recommend. Lastly, you need to research those schools properly, reaching out to students and everything like that. Don't just go to one because you see a good Google review. Look at their course structure, look at the curriculum, reach out to past students. Like I said, the first school I went to, although I had a great time, probably wasn't structured best, especially for me, but also to get into the industry. Thinktank, the other way around. So it was fantastic. Not other way around. I enjoyed my time at Thinktank as well, but they were structured very, very well. Online courses, pros and cons. So it's super affordable, all right? Like I said, you can get on Skillshare, you can do monthly fees, but Flip Normals have specials all the time. There are heaps available. I'll leave a couple links for my recommendations, ones I learned from. Fantastic, super, super cheap. Also, tons of options. You will know when you're choosing your course, usually what you're going to create. And so you can pick what works for you. Do you want to create a sci-fi character, a fantasy character? There are plenty of options. And so you can choose rather than jumping in and having no idea. And because of that, you know what you're getting, right? You know from the end what you are going to create. So you have sort of a baseline on success as well, right? Because if you create something that looks kind of like what you meant to, fantastic. And usually you can get reviews on these courses as well, which is another great pro. Cons, no feedback. That is a big one. I already mentioned my passion for feedback. You don't get them with online courses. You're just going to create. And so it's going to be your own feedback. And we are our own worst critic. Either sometimes we're too critical or not critical enough. So that's a big con for sure. You need to be really self-driven and really just like diligent with like blocking out your time with an online course, because it's just your own time and you're just sort of working at it at your own pace. And some people are great at that. Some people aren't. I know for a fact I'm not. So that's why I struggle with it. And I guess with online courses, theoretically, it might end up being a waste of time if you don't vibe with that person's teaching style or whatever it is. Maybe you're just not learning from the way they're teaching. Maybe they're going too quick. That being said, usually you can get refunds. But again, I find that if you're not vibing, you can't talk to that person, tell them to slow down. So it's a weird kind of con because it's like a double-edged sword. Like, yeah, okay, you might not vibe with it, but also you now have this content forever. So depending how you look at it. Mentorships. Like I said, I'm a huge advocate for mentorships. The biggest pro for mentorships is it's personalized and tailored to you. You can go in with a concept that you want to work on. You can also have a chat to your mentor about what you want to learn specifically, so you know where to dedicate the majority of your time. I feel like from my experience, you learn faster because you can have one-on-one conversations and just get your questions answered like that and work on the specific areas where you are struggling. Like with Frankie and I, we worked out quite early on that sculpting was not where I needed the help. And so we wouldn't waste time talking about it. Yeah, we would still talk about it, but not get deep into it. But when we got to the section of the project where I did need the help, we would spend like hours talking about sometimes just random shit that would help me in the long run. And then another big pro with mentorships is networking, being able to converse with this other person. I just think it is a huge pro to be able to talk to someone about this, especially if you don't have anyone else in your life that you can talk to that understands this, I guess. A big, big advocate. Cons, it's going to be similar to school. They can be expensive, and the downside being usually no financing unless you did something off on your own, which I don't know if I'd recommend. That's, again, personal to you. And another con is I think success in a mentorship really depends on the relationship between the mentor and the mentee. I feel like if you guys don't get along, if you guys don't meld well, you're going to struggle no matter what. I think you need to find someone that you can just have a chat to and just like get along with, but also you need to be receptive to their feedback as well. It's a two-edged sword. I think you might think with a mentorship, it's like I'm paying this person there to teach me. It's like, no. You're more paying them to be their student rather than them to be your teacher. in my experience, right? So you need to be open to learning from them. That really comes down to personal preference and taste. I feel like luckily there's so much online these days, you can just sort of jump into it and figure it out. So it's not a big deal. So my final thoughts on this whole learning spectrum. If you are not sure on any of these three, online course is the way to go. It's the cheapest, it's the less risk, and you're going to have access to it no matter what. It's not going anywhere. And if something happened in your life where, oh my God, suddenly you just can't do anything for the next couple of weeks, maybe you hurt yourself, you hurt whatever, that content will still be there once you get back. So again, if you're not sure, online course, that is the way to go for sure. If you thrive in a structured environment, if you know that you need that sort of added encouragement to keep yourself going, then I think school is a great option because they have a curriculum that you need to stick to. Otherwise, you're not going to succeed. And then I think if you want the most efficient growth, mentorships are the way to go. You're going to learn the fastest through a mentorship, no doubt. All right, it's that feedback, it's that one-on-one connection, being able to talk about your project. That is the big kicker there. And I guess lastly, keep in mind, no path is right or wrong. Maybe you don't want to do any of this. Maybe you just want to self-teach. Then do it. By all means, there are incredible self-taught artists out there. There are people that have been to school. It doesn't matter. There is no right or wrong answer. It's just sort of experiential. And like I said, from my experience, these are my notes. As you can see from this video, I'm a huge advocate for mentorships, and I'm going to create a completely separate video to this one on my own personal experience doing a mentorship with Frankie. So subscribe to the channel if you want to see that video. I'll do a full breakdown. We may even reach out to Frankie and have a little bit of a chat regarding that as well. Like I said, there is no right or wrong answer here. If you have questions, leave them down in the comment section below. I'll do my best to get back to you. If you don't want to drop it publicly, reach out to me on Instagram and I'll try my best there. But hopefully it's been helpful. You know, I feel like I've done it all in terms of mentorships and traditional school and online courses, and have learned things from each one. So hopefully this video helped you make a decision. If it did, hit the thumbs up. But until the next video, guys, I'll see you later. And yeah, just keep creating because that's the most important thing.